Hello, everybody, and welcome to the new and improved, hopefully, episode of A Real Point of View here on Google Plus and our YouTube channel. We want to welcome in the new year 2016, talking about what we love, movies. So joining me are my co-host, Mr. Larry Demikowski of Must See Movies, and Ms. Karen D. of the Movie Maven herself. So what we're talking about, the subject matter that we're talking about today, is films that we love, films that we liked, and actors and actresses in those films. And we thought, well, maybe if a different actor or a different actress or a different essence of this film was added, maybe that would change the reaction and change how we felt about the movie. Movies that we thought...
Or what the other title that we had is, if this actor don't fit, we must make them quit.
Yeah, that was our legal summation about that. Didn't really work that well. It worked that well. It worked well for the OJ case, so I guess we can reuse it. It's retreading.
Oh, we need to go for it. Let's just do it.
All right, let's just do it. Enough said. So the movies that we are talking about so far have been Lady Sings the Blues that we had on. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we were talking about this on our radio show just a moment ago, which is on Blog Talk Radio, on A Real Point of View there, about these different films. So Lady Sings the Blues, right? Karen, was your film that you mentioned, and
Yes.
Carmen Jones, Larry, was the film that you mentioned, and different perspectives. The actress in Lady Sings the Blues was Diana Ross, and Karen, you had a different opinion as to who you felt would be a better leading actress. And then Larry, which was a very cool concept with regard to Carmen Jones, not so much changing the actors, but changing the voices that were dubbed with the singing voices. So we'll get into that a little bit here. So why don't we go ahead and get started with you, Karen. Just give us kind of an overview of the Lady Sings the Blues and then go into your other film that you have as well.
Okay. Lady Sings the Blues, like I said, is a 1972 film that was produced by Berry Gordy. And I want to say that he also, I'm not sure if he directed or not. I'm trying to look up who directed this movie. I'm sorry, it was not Berry Gordy. It was Sidney J. Fury directed this movie. And among the other producers were Brad Dexter, Jay Weston. Anyway, the movie, like I said in our radio broadcast, the movie seemed to be more of really a vehicle. The biography of Lady Day was really an excuse to come up with a movie star vehicle for Diana Ross. Berry Gordy and Diana Ross were involved at the time, and he was determined to make her a star. And this seemed to be the best way in his mind to get that to happen. And I think he was right. I mean, he had very good instincts when it came to what would sell. I mean, that's why he headed up Motown all those years and was the driving force behind so many rhythm and blues hits that America was graced with in the 50s and the 60s, and he brought that same acumen to bear for Lady Sings the Blues. And if he hadn't picked a real-life person, if this had been a fictional story, I wouldn't have had any problem. And it could have been, there were so many liberties taken with the Billie Holiday story in this film that it might as well have been a work of fiction. But if he had just gone all the way and just made it a work of fiction, some story about some singer who falls down on her luck, then fine. But he picked a real person, and to me, he did a disservice to Billie Holiday because he didn't go out of his way to honor Billie Holiday, really, in my opinion, at all. He kind of just used her and she'd already been used a lot between the drugs and the dealers and the music industry that just stomped all over her. So that was like, wow, you didn't have to go there. Like, you could have picked somebody else to stomp all over in your ruthless quest to make Diana Ross a star. But why doesn't Diana Ross work? One of the reasons, and I didn't get into this during the broadcast, is that one of the reasons that this doesn't work is because of the story itself. They took some major events in the Billie Holiday life story and created this huge fiction around all of that. So this isn't really about Billie Holiday. And at the time that the movie came out, there was a great deal of controversy about this movie, because people said, this isn't about Billie Holiday. Diana Ross never should have been cast because she doesn't look like Billie Holiday. She didn't sing like Billie Holiday. This story has nothing to do with Billie Holiday, and all it does is kind of focus on her drug use, and it doesn't focus on any other aspects of her personality. It just makes her. There was all of this controversy surrounding the film at the time that it came out. So that's one thing. I wish Berry Gordy had been more interested in Billie Holiday herself, because I think this movie's ripe to be remade by somebody who actually cares about the real Billie Holiday and her story, because she has just such an amazing story. This is a woman who never should have been able to get up in front of a microphone at all. Okay, because she had no training. I mean, she wrote some of her own songs, but it's not because somebody taught her. She was totally self-taught, and her voice was so unique, but not because she had all of this amazing technical prowess. She had a very limited range. She just had this amazing way of delivering the song that spoke to you emotionally. That had nothing to do with vocal prowess. Diana Ross is probably a much better singer technically than Billie Holiday could ever hope to be. For one, she has a much wider range to work with. And, she could sing different types of songs. Billie Holiday stuck to jazz. She didn't branch out into folk or pop or other things. She stuck to what she knew. But the fact that she got in front of a microphone at all is pretty much a miracle, and definitely a story worth telling. And yes, I mean, you can't tell her story without talking about like the drug abuse and her, probably not even about probably not even, and so many terrible things happened to her during her relatively brief life. But it would have been nice to talk about Billie Holiday. It would have been nice to do a film that really focused on the Billie Holiday story, so I think it's ripe to be remade. If it was going to be remade in 1972, and I was Queen of the World, I would have given Pam Grier an audition, and there's a good chance I would have cast her as Billie Holiday. Now, why is that? Well, one reason is that Pam Grier looks a lot more like Billie Holiday. And let me see if I can get a visual for you all here that will show you what I'm talking about. Well, here's one visual. Okay, I'm going to show you a picture of the real Billie Holiday and Diana Ross. Okay, I mean, Billie Holiday has a much fuller face. Diana Ross has a much more angular face. They don't favor each other too much. And Billie Holiday, from a physique standpoint, was more full-bodied. She was like medium build, and maybe a little bit more than medium from time to time, depending. Diana Ross has always been skinny, incredibly skinny. So just from a physique standpoint, they don't really favor each other. Okay. Now let me see if I can show you.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
Okay.
One of the things that I think you're making a very, very good statement about this. One of the things about Diana Ross doing Billie Holiday and going back to what Berry Gordy was trying to do. I mean, she had just blown the Supremes apart, and Berry Gordy, in my opinion, was trying to recapture the wagon train that he had with Diana Ross and the Supremes, and so he was doing anything he could to get that together again, to find that money that he's missing. And let's face it, Berry Gordy was a fantastic producer. What he did is phenomenal and belongs as an American icon, and respectfully so. On the other hand, if he didn't like losing money, and when Diana Ross and the Supremes broke up, that was a huge hit on him at first. He had to find some way of getting her back in front of everybody in the world, and I agree with you. I don't think she did a great job as Billie Holiday. One of the things about that too, if they would have made the movie so that more about Billie Holiday and less about trying to make Diana Ross in front of us, I think Diana Ross would have done a great job, but they didn't.
Right. Now, here's a shot of Pam Grier from around the time, this is like a shot of her from the 70s. And you see, if you remember the shot that I had before of the real Billie Holiday, she comes a lot closer to what the real Billie Holiday looked like. And I think it would have made a lot more sense to just cast her and dub in the real Billie Holiday singing. I think it's kind of a slap in the face to have Diana Ross singing Billie Holiday, because nobody can sing Billie Holiday the way Billie Holiday can. And if you're going to do a picture about her life, it's kind of crazy to me to have Diana Ross singing her songs when you really want to have Billie Holiday singing those songs. So you cast a really good actress, somebody like Pam Grier, who looks more like Billie Holiday, and dub in Billie Holiday singing her own songs, and then you've got the makings of a movie that's actually about Billie Holiday.
Well, and you're making another great point. One of the things that unless you're really getting into a lot of the genre of music that produced Billie Holiday, if you look at the way that a lot of blues music is sung today, jazz and blues music sung today, no one sings like Billie Holiday.
Right.
And yet you go to these blues clubs and these jazz clubs, and you see these women up there singing, and who are they up there trying to sound like? They're trying to sound like Bessie Smith.
Right.
They're not trying to. They can't. They can't even touch what Billie Holiday did. She had this raw emotional power that you talked about earlier, and you can't teach that.
No.
Right.
You can't
teach that. You can't teach pain. You can't teach suffering. You can't teach anguish. Those are those things that are very personal things. And Billie Holiday, I agree, was not the quote-unquote virtuoso of singers, but at the same time, the essence of her pain and the quality of that, it attributed itself even much more so to blues. Mm-hmm. And that raw emotion that you're talking about, Larry, is evident in her singing. You listen to Billie Holiday, you listen to that pain, you listen to that suffering, that anguish,
the longing, the longing.
I mean, all of those emotions that come forward, and it helps you pay attention to what she's singing about. It really does.
Yeah. It really does.
Yes, it does.
Technical issues. Sorry about that.
I thought we were about to hear Billie Holiday.
No.
Coming from the tomb because I was like, that just happened automatically. Wow.
That's actually a good idea. I wanted to see if there were some other screenshots that I wanted to share with you guys.
While you're looking for those, Karen, why don't we go with your movie, Larry? What was your other film that you had, Larry, that you were going to talk about other than Carmen? Well, why don't you start with Carmen Jones? I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say about Carmen Jones is that the people that they chose to be in the lead roles, all have marvelous singing voices, and I think that Otto Preminger, when he made this film, and this film studio, to make the movie more acceptable to the audiences, and the whole idea of a Bizet opera of Carmen, they made a wrong turn. They tried to make it more like a European opera than what Hammerstein was trying to do. Oscar Hammerstein was trying to do when he wrote the stage play. So I think that, not taking away anything that it is now, and it's a wonderful film, and the performances are fantastic, but I think it would have been a whole lot better, and the audiences and the whole industry and the history of the industry would have been better served if the original actors in this film used their voices to sing it. Harry Belafonte has a wonderful voice, and Dorothy Dandridge has a beautiful, wonderful voice, and Diane Carroll had a beautiful, wonderful voice, and these voices should not have been dubbed over by opera singers. Mind you, the opera singers that they used, for the most part, in fact, I think they were all African American, but that
they were.
But that's still not what's happening here, except the boys' choir that they used for the kids in the thing. That was some boys' choir in New York, and I believe it wasn't African American. So the point is that they had their hand not just on a gold mine, but they had their hand on this beautiful Easter egg, and this Fabergé egg, and they didn't allow it to be what it had a potential to be. Do I want to see this movie remade? I don't think we could do it today and get the same results. But if we can, and if somebody does, please don't dub it. It's a wonderful piece of music without that. So, and it's a wonderful film without it. So.
I think it could really sort of breathe. I mean, I'm not an opera fan. I can't abide opera. I'll be honest with you. And with our viewing / listening audience, I can't stand opera. But Carmen, the opera Carmen by Bizet is one of the few operas that I can actually stand, and I like that music. And I think because we just, our tastes in music I think is like our national taste for different types of music or doing different things with music is a lot broader. There's a lot more tolerance there than there certainly was in 1954 when Carmen Jones was done. I think it would be really interesting and bring new fans to the opera Carmen to have sort of a folk version of this. I mean, it's really a folk tale anyway, and to sort of deliver these songs in the style of like typical singers instead of the quote-unquote opera singers would be really interesting, I think. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing that at all.
Well, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but back in, let's see, what year was this? Give me just a second. They actually remade Carmen in 2001.
Yeah, we're trying to ignore that.
Oh.
Who do they make it with?
Beyonce.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
Beyonce and Mekhi Phifer.
I saw that. I didn't like it.
I was just saying that they redid it, and my point was that it wasn't successful. So maybe, like
oh, is
you
that
say,
your
maybe.
point?
Well,
God,
you know,
it took a while to
let me
get there.
Well,
You-
I was just trying to bring it up so I could see it, make sure I had the right dates.
you had in this film, you had some of the best actors around in this, and in the 1954 version, and but back in 1954, most of these actors, had especially people who were desperately trying to make it when the odds were stacked against them, had to be very good just to be there, let alone be a star.
Yeah.
And and this film really proves it. This film really proves that these people really deserve to be there.
People like Roy Glenn. I mean, Roy Glenn is not like a well-known name unless you really know the African American history in movies. Roy Glenn played the father in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. He played Sidney Poitier's father.
Right.
He was in Carmen Jones. He played the boxer's manager.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the boxer in the Carmen Jones movie, but
Rum Daniels.
Right. But he played his manager, and fabulous actor. Love him as an and just has like this amazing stentorian voice, and just amazing actor. And it was so good to see him on the screen. And again, somebody who, throughout his career, I'm sure was underutilized. He played a lot of butlers and he played a lot of, servants. But in this movie, he was a businessman, which was pretty freaking awesome in 1954.
And one of the things, if you look at his career, he was always working. He had you're right. He had this, he had the type of voice and a type of presence that was just, when he was on screen, you just went to him. Your eyes just went to him. He spoke. Your ears went right to him. And speaking of different things, I think he would have made the perfect voice for Darth Vader, but that's another story.
Yeah, well, he had an amazing voice, so yeah, I could totally see him as Darth Vader. Why not? I mean, he was probably not in the, well, if he was, I mean, assuming he was alive then.
No,
but
he died in 1971.
Well, there you go. Okay. But if he'd been alive, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a big if, but if he had.
Yeah, if.
Could, yeah, exactly.
Okay, Larry, why don't we go with your next film? What other than Carmen Jones did you have?
Well, I picked one of the most fun little films. Actually, it's rated pretty good. It's rated IMDb 7.3, and on Rotten Tomatoes, it's rated at 83%. The John Carpenter directed film, he didn't write it, called They Live. and I don't know if you know the film at all, but They Live is a marvelous. Let me see if I can find an image of it. Here we go. All right, and then let's see. How do I do this? I do this and I do this, and then I go over here and I get this thing here, and then They Live. There we go. I share it.
Oh.
There it is. That's the thing for They Live.
Wow.
And what the story for this How do I unstream?
Just click it again.
All right, there you go. Woohoo! How this film goes is there's this guy Roddy Piper who at the time was a professional wrestler, seeing his end of his career at WWF, and he decides to go off and become a movie star. He gets and a bunch of other pro wrestlers are in this film as well. And what he does is he's down and out, hard in his luck, and he's trying to find a job, gets one, and then he stumbles onto these people who are living in a vacant lot, and then he stumbles onto this plot, and he doesn't understand it, and then he finds these sunglasses, and he puts on the sunglasses, and gosh darn, half the people around him are aliens. And the aliens look like undead aliens. You expect the guy from those the undead movies to suddenly come around or something like this. Anyway, the movie is fun to watch. It's not a great film, but it's fun to watch. It makes no apologies. Well, and I'm thinking, every time I watch this movie, I'm thinking, that's not the guy to do this. He does a pretty good job, but I'm always thinking about Kurt Russell in this film. And I'm going, that would make this film over the top. It'd be great.
Because
it's just you look at this film and you can say he's trying to act like Kurt Russell.
Was it something like what is it? Big Trouble in Little China?
Yeah.
Kind of Kurt Russell kind of film.
or more like Snake Plissken, you know.
Oh, from Escape from New York.
It could have been either, you know. It doesn't matter. And I'm thinking this would have really have worked. And then as I'm researching this just the other day, I learned that he was the original one asked to be in this film.
Isn't that crazy? Now that's funny. That's good. See, you're right on the money, Larry.
So it's like, okay, I like this. I like the possibilities. It's all good for me. And, one of these days, man, somebody's actually listened to my opinion, really.
Well, that was good. I mean, that's got to be pretty good that you that you came up with a person who was actually even thought about being cast for the actual part. Now that right. in itself is a coup.
So anyway, again, this film is from just a strict, just sit back, relax, get the popcorn, enjoy a movie, forget about how good or bad it is. This is a pretty fun movie to watch. But if you're looking at something that is it has a bit more depth to it, this movie is not for you.
Well, you know what? There's a movie for everybody. There's always different types of films out there that people like, and it doesn't matter if it's always what the quote-unquote critics like us suggest all the time. I think you'll find those movies that are endearing to you anyway. But that was a cool thing that you came up with a guy that had actually been thought about being cast for that film, and that's a biggie. That's a biggie. Well, not to totally get lost in the fray here, I've got two films out there too. One of them is a movie that was made back in 1998, and it's called The Rat Pack, and this is basically somewhat of a biopic about Frank Sinatra and his friends, different actors and singers and performers that just kind of palled around with him. And one of those people was Sammy Davis Jr. I mentioned aforementioned in our radio show that Sammy Davis Jr. was a triple threat. He could sing, he could dance, he could act. I mean, he was marvelous performer. One of the best performers to ever live, in my opinion. But the person that was cast for his character in the film was Don Cheadle. Now, I am a fan of Don Cheadle. If you've listened to any of our broadcasts in the past, you'll probably know that. But at the same time, I don't think he was right for this particular film. there's an actor out there who, again, I will say is somewhat of a triple threat. He's a good actor, he's a decent dancer, but even more so, he's a really good comedian. But he would have done a really, really good job, and that actor, comedian, dancer is Tommy Davidson. Tommy Davidson is still doing live stand-up comedy, but he's been in quite a few films. He's been more of a melodramatic in those films. In some of them, he's been comedic. But he also is a person who, on Saturday Night Live and also in Living Color, actually played Sammy Davis Jr. in some satire. And so he was very convincing. He has the voice down pat. I'm just going to show a quick picture here of the guy I'm talking about. And that is, so this is Tommy Davidson, and he's a really, really good comedian. My wife and I actually saw him live about a month ago. But this guy has an uncanny essence of being, of imitating Sammy Davis Jr. He sounds like him, and I think he would have done a better job than Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle didn't look anything like him. As you were saying, Karen, aesthetically wasn't there. But Tommy Davidson has a way of putting his face, making up his face that he looks so much like Sammy Davis Jr. And he sounds so much like him. And Tommy Davis can sing. He has a really nice singing voice. I think he would have been a much better choice than the choice that we got.
You convinced me. Yeah. You know, one of the things about Sammy Davis Jr. that's so hard to do is that he was so multi-talented. Not only was he a phenomenal performer, he was a singer, he was a comedian, he was a dancer. He also was an instrumentalist. He could play almost every instrument in an orchestra. You know, so and he wrote songs. He was talk about a triple threat. He was like a threat every way you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, he was just so freaking talented.
And so when you're looking at someone who can do Sammy Davis Jr., you got to pick a couple of things and say, okay, don't worry about this part, don't worry about this part, don't worry about this part. And I think your choice, Greg, is a phenomenal choice. Davidson, I've seen him imitate Sammy Davis Jr., and he's got him down.
He was on point.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And what's great is that he could stay doing Sammy Davis Jr., doing whatever Sammy Davis Jr. is doing.
Yeah, because one of the things about Tommy Davidson is he's a great imitator. And so he wouldn't necessarily have to have the dancing lessons, although I think he does know how to dance. But he imitates what he sees, and he sees Sammy Davis Jr. And mannerisms, total characteristics. Seems to me that he would have been a person I would have sought after to try to be in this film. And I think he would have probably reveled at the opportunity. And I don't think that Don Cheadle did a bad job necessarily, but I think Tommy Davidson would have just been much more convincing. And he would have fit in quite well. And the irony is that, again, we're talking about time frame. He's almost the same age as Don Cheadle. So that wouldn't have been an issue. It's just a matter of sometimes that talent, sometimes that person's not out there knowing that this is the audition that they should be entered or be a part of. Sometimes it's Hollywood's way of kind of a rat pack for real. Bring in your friends and your acquaintances. We know that Don Cheadle's a real good friend of George Clooney, and that's why he ended up in a lot of those Ocean 11 movies. And so I think it would have been nice to see Tommy Davidson have that opportunity. Don't know if he had it or not, but it would be nice to see him have the opportunity to actually play Sammy Davis in that movie. It would have been nice to see that.
Yeah, you talked me into it.
Just saying.
I agree.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to delve into my last movie real quick, if you guys don't mind.
And I still have a movie too, Greg.
Yeah, I'm just going to take mine and then let you guys run with it after that, if that's okay. Unless you want to go ahead, Karen.
No, that's okay. I just didn't want you to forget me.
Oh, I wasn't forgetting you. No.
Karen,
What?
you're unforgettable.
Okay, well, you're right.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
I'm right.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Okay. It made me think of Nat King Cole when you said that, and Natalie Cole.
Oh.
Okay. Anyway, well, the last movie that I had, which is a sore spot for me a little bit, is Tom Cruise's movie Jack Reacher. Now, I'm a big fan of Tom Cruise, to be honest with you. I like his action movies, especially the Mission Impossibles, and a few other films of his. Especially The Last Samurai. I really like that film. But the movie Jack Reacher, which came out recently, I think this is a 2014 film. Jack Reacher is a character. He's ex-military. He is ex-Navy, and he was military police, and that's the character that Tom Cruise is playing in the film. Now, I'm also a fan of the writer of this character. This is a character that's in a series of books written by Lee Childs. And although I love Tom Cruise, I didn't think he was right for this film. The character in the book, especially for people who are die-hard Lee Childs fans out there, like me, the character in the book is about 6'5". He's about... because it basically spans his life from the military into his private life after the military. And he's anywhere from 6'5" to 225 pounds to 250 pounds. And Tom Cruise is about 5'8", maybe, and about 165 pounds.
On a good day.
And although that is stellar size and he does well, it just, for me, it just didn't work as well. And that's probably because of reading the books and knowing what the character should aesthetically look like. Now, you want to make sure that you have an actor who's going to do well and is a decent actor as well, if you're talking about taking over a role. So to me, it would have been more appropriate to have Hugh Jackman play the character. Aesthetically, Hugh Jackman is about 6'4". He's about 235 pounds, and we've seen him in the Marvel movies as Wolverine for the X-Men. So we know aesthetically and what's the word I'm looking for? His virile essence would have been really good in this film. He's built pretty much like Tom Cruise, only in the proper height. And the one other thing that's a really good factor here, and why I think he would have been good for the role, he's a good actor. He's actually a good actor. He's a good singer. He's a decent singer, we'll say that. And he's actually a good dancer. So this guy is also multi-talented, but I think his dramatic roles that he's had, not just the Wolverine character, but in Prisoner, I think it's The Illusionist is the other one. And his role in, what is it, Les Miserables?
Yeah, wasn't he also in The Prestige?
Yeah, Prestige, that's the movie I was thinking about. Thank you, Larry, not The Illusionist, Prestige. So here we're talking about a guy who's a really good actor, a guy who's very viable as a character actor, as well as just a very good dramatic actor. So I think he would have done as well, if not better, for this movie. And again, it would also be more like the aesthetic that the author really wanted people to see. And so I think he would have done a better job. had done as good a job maybe acting-wise, but I think aesthetically he would have looked better and more attuned to what the author was really trying to portray when he wrote the character.
Interesting.
I like your point of view on that.
Thank you.
You know, it's hard. It's hard when you have somebody like Tom Cruise. When he walks into a film, he walks.
Having a hard time hearing you, Larry. Just so you know.
Sorry about that. Is this a little better?
Yeah, it's getting better and better.
All right. So, I have learned that it's awfully hard when you have a movie with Tom Cruise in it because he walks in with all this money.
Exactly.
And it's like, and sometimes he gets into his own way in producing in a film. And I know that he likes his action movies and he likes some of the other stuff that he does, but in many of the stuff that he's been in the past 10 years, he's been the weakest part of the film. And, you know, it's a Tom Cruise film, so people are going to go see it. But, you know, Tom, maybe you need to step back and let somebody else do it and stick to producing. Stick to where the money's coming from or not be in charge as much and let somebody else kick your butt around and just be an actor. Don't try to be, you know, the star. Because he wants to be the star.
Well, here's where my angst comes in again, and that's in the second movie. Jack Reacher 2 is going to be released in October of this year. So I'm really, and again, I don't dislike Tom Cruise. I actually like Tom Cruise as an actor, but I'm gonna watch this movie and feel the same way that Hugh Jackman would have been a better choice. But I know once they've introduced the character, you don't want to change it necessarily because that's going to devalue it a little bit. And so I get it, but man, I wish Tom Cruise had the forethought to get Hugh Jackman involved in this project because I think it would have just been just as popular. And I agree with you about Tom Cruise coming in with the money, Tom Cruise coming with the box office. It's just, man, it would have been nice if it was Hugh Jackman. I just think it would have been better. So, Karen, you said you had
make a good point.
Thank you. So you said you had another film waiting for us. So tell us what that is.
Well, okay. This comes under the heading of what I call a Maven rant.
Okay.
No, you never do that. You never do that.
Okay, obviously my reputation has preceded me, but I'm pretty ticked, okay, people? Pretty freaking ticked about this upcoming movie. I said I didn't know the name of the movie on the broadcast. The name of the movie is actually called Nina, and it's a biopic of the jazz musician and classical pianist Nina Simone, and chronicling her rise to fame and her relationship with her manager, who was Clifton Henderson. So this movie is starring Zoe Saldana as Nina Simone. David Oyelowo will be playing Clifton Henderson. Mike Epps is in the movie as Richard Pryor. Ella Joyce is in the movie as Clifton Henderson's mother. And then there are other assorted people. Ella Thomas, who people probably don't really know, will be playing Lorraine Hansberry. And then there are other assorted people who are in this movie. And I'm pretty pissed off that Zoe Saldana got cast as Nina Simone. If that's not a slap in the face of the late, great Nina Simone, I don't know what is. And it has nothing to do with whether Zoe Saldana can act or not. I actually like her as an actress, but it's a couple of things. One, she doesn't even cop to being African American, really. She's like Latino, okay? So that's one thing. And Nina Simone was, She was black. And Zoe Saldana is a very fair-skinned. She wears straight hair. Nina Simone was dark-skinned and wore an afro a lot of the time. And in fact, one of the biggest issues that she had during her career was that she was not considered pretty enough to be on the covers of albums, or pretty enough to be the headliner, or pretty enough to do this, that, and the other thing. And she had to fight the battle of looksism her entire career. Zoe Saldana is classically pretty, and let me just, because I'm ranting here, people, let me just show you what I'm talking about. Because I have a picture of Nina Simone, I believe. Here's a picture of Nina Simone. Okay? She's not a classically pretty woman. I mean, she's not unattractive, but she's not classically pretty. I mean, to me, she's kind of ordinary looking, But that's Nina Simone. Okay? Now let me show you a picture of Zoe Saldana. Okay. Thought I had one queued up here, and okay. Okay, here is Zoe Saldana. Okay, and okay, here we go. Zoe Saldana, and as you can see, there's no resemblance there. Zoe Saldana is much lighter. She doesn't wear her hair in a fro. Her features are much keener than Nina Simone's features. They don't look anything alike. And Zoe Saldana is not, she probably can sing. I'm sure she can carry a tune. But she's not known as a singer. So she's not even bringing that to the table. This is a box office grab. That's what this is. And I just think it's a travesty that they're taking a woman who fought for the right to not have these European looks and to be taken seriously as an actor, or to be taken seriously as an entertainer, as a musician, and to be the architect of her own career without having, and we're talking about, men were running the show in those days, men were dictating that you had to look a certain way to get anywhere in show business. And she spent so much of her life fighting against that kind of ridiculousness. So I think it's really crappy, and it's nothing personal against Zoe Saldana, who I happen to personally like as an actor, but I think it's really crappy to cast somebody who has that sort of that classically / European sort of look, classically pretty look, in that role when that woman was anything but, and was proud of that. She was proud of her looks, and she gave her voice to women who looked like her, women who didn't have a voice in those days. So important. I don't know how Zoe Saldana is going to deliver that.
So let me ask you this, Karen. With that being said,
I'm kind of in the middle of a rant here, but anyway, no, I'm kidding. Go ahead. Yes, Greg.
With that being said, no, seriously, with that being said, what actress out there or what personality out there do you think would actually be able to portray the type of woman, the type of essence that Nina Simone actually stood for? Is there an actress out there or a personality out there you think would do better? Who would that be?
Oh, you want me to stop ranting, don't you?
No, I want to know, because your rant, to me, just being very honest with you, I agree. I agree because, again, part of the understanding and part of my understanding historically of Nina Simone is her fight for that equilibrium, is her fight in trying to be accepted, not just as a human being, but as a really, really talented musician.
Right.
Very misunderstood
Yes.
woman in her
Yes.
short life. So who out there you think would actually give Nina Simone a life in film?
Well, the first person that comes to mind for me would be Lupita Nyong'o.
Okay.
Okay, she played the slave. She played the female slave who, in 12 Years a Slave, who was on the same plantation that Chiwetel Ejiofor's character was on.
She won
And
the
the one
Oscar.
who was just beaten. She won the Oscar for that film, yes, and she was the one who was beaten so badly in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, here's a comparison, side-to-side comparison for Nina Simone.
Yeah, there's no comparison there.
Can I
Right.
say something
Ridiculous.
to that picture, Larry? Can you put the picture back up? Yeah, I'll click on it.
You
Now,
click on it.
the person who I think would do Nina Simone justice is in this picture. She's wearing the funky colored, I guess that's teal hat.
Yeah.
And Karen, you could tell me, is that India Arie?
I can't. Let me see. I can't see the picture, so I don't know.
Oh, you can't see the one that Larry showed
Well,
underneath at the bottom there?
because it's being blocked by our pictures.
Well, click on my space in the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't click on it, but I will just say, just to move the discussion along, the other person that I would say could bring justice to this role would be India Arie. Yes, I agree with that. I was thinking of actors, and we discussed this before, and I said India Arie to begin with, and I'd forgotten about that.
By the way, Greg, you good eyes. That is India Arie.
Right.
And
So-
and what's interesting, and I gotta give you a lot of credit here, Karen, is that there have been many articles about what you're ranting on right now. That Zoe is the wrong person for this role, and here's a list of all the women they could have chosen. So you are among a lot of very good critics' point of view. You're with them.
Yeah, I just it's a real slap in the face. And I guess in 2016, this movie's going to come out this year. So we're in 2016. And I guess I was hoping that more enlightened minds would come to bear. And like I said, I really think this is just a box office grab because the producers, the investors are looking for return on investment, and they want a guaranteed, somebody who they want the person fronting the movie to be somebody who will bring in box office. And Zoe Saldana starred in Avatar, did a fine job there. She was in the Star Trek movies, did a fine job there. 2 of the Star Trek movies, did a fine job there. And she's done fine work. I don't know if she can carry box office. I don't know if she can carry box office.
After her performance in the Masters of the Universe or Masters of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy. It's during that where even though Avatar happened, it was during the Guardians of the Galaxy where her stock shot up through the roof, and
yeah, and that was a good role. I mean, I really enjoyed her in that movie. But I mean, I'm sorry, there's no amount of makeup that's going to make that woman look like Nina Simone.
Well, and no, it's not going to happen. But
it's not going to happen, and she can't. And it's not even. And it would be less insulting if she was actually bringing classical piano skills and jazz vocalizing skills or musicianship to the table, but she's not bringing that because she's not a musician, she's an actress.
Well, one of the things that we're going to have to do is, it's really, first of all, again, I'm not disagreeing, I'm agreeing with you. So right now, where we're at with this is that we're going to have to wait and see how, not what she does, but what the filmmakers do to make this film work. And if they rely on her stardom, the movie's going to collapse. If they take a few risks and make a good film first, then at least it's going to be watchable. We'll see what happens. Frankly, I'm not going to hold my breath.
I think this movie's a non-starter with her in the starring role. I'm sorry, I just do. I would love to see. I can't think of it. I can think of a lot of people who also deserve biopics, along with Nina Simone. But I think she's a pioneer. The telling of her story on the big screen is long overdue. There have been documentaries about this amazing woman that have been done over the years, but I love the fact that somebody wants to do a big screen treatment, but it's really crappy that they sort of punt at, again, just at the critical juncture, they punt and say, well, we have to make sure that we get all of our money back, so we need to cast a bankable actress. And it's like, well, if you need a bankable actress, then cast Lupita Nyong'o. You could actually get her to look like Nina Simone. I mean, from an age standpoint, you would have to make her look older during the picture, but you would have to do that anyway. But at least looks-wise, she's a lot closer, and she is. I mean, the woman just won an Academy Award, so she's bankable.
And one of the things that you're alluding to, and that is that today's Hollywood, and I mean Hollywood in quotes. Right now, they're doing everything they can to avoid taking risks. They don't want risks, and this is hurting the film.
It totally is.
And you take a look at all the great films that have ever been made, and they take risks. They take risks with the script, risks with actors. They take risks with, and not a risk that like the movie you're talking about and casting the wrong character, wrong actress. They need to take a risk to what is it going to do to make the film better, not to make the box office better, but to make the film better.
Or worse yet, not to guarantee a certain return on investment, because I think that's what it's all about now.
Well, that's what I meant by the box office.
Which if the movie is better, the box office will eventually be better.
Well, that's not always true. That's not always true. There's a wonderful film called, and this is just one of many examples. There's a wonderful film called The Stuntman, and it was in the theaters for about 2 weeks and then went away. And this is back in the 70s, late 70s.
Peter O'Toole.
Yep, Peter O'Toole and Steve Railsback, Barbara Hershey.
Oh wow.
It's a great film, and for many reasons this is a great film. And what happened is that even though you had the right actors in it doing the right thing, just a few weeks or a few months before this came out, this really terrible movie with Burt Reynolds. About a stuntman.
I think I remember that movie.
Yeah, I might even going to mention the name of the movie because I really can't promote it. Nobody wanted, because of that terrible movie, nobody wanted to go and see another movie about a stuntman.
Right.
The movie's not about a stuntman at all. It's Peter O'Toole, Railsback, Hershey film. Not about that at all. It's about something far more deep. And it's about the nature of us as human beings. Who are we really? It's also about how we make movies. And one of the important lines in this movie is, how big was King Kong? In other words, nothing is what it appears to be. And it's just a wonderful film. What's cool about this film was, if you were patient with it, well, guess what? It was the first film that outgrossed its theater run in the rental video market. Once people started understanding what this was, then they started. But it wasn't until then. It wasn't until people started to see what it was. So in one way, you're absolutely correct that eventually people will go and see it, but it's not going to be in the movie theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Larry. I mean, the movie theater graveyards are littered with good films that didn't get the viewership that they deserved. You know, where everything was done, they were well written, they were well directed, well produced, well acted, and they still didn't get the viewership. And we also have, you know, not great movies that have lots of huge viewership. So no, there's no guarantee. But I guess, you know, like what we've been saying is that do you want to honor the story, or do you just want to make money? And to me, it's like, because Nina Simone gave her life, really, I mean, not in a way that she died of natural causes and all that, but she spent her whole life, you know, for a cause. She had a cause that she wanted to fight for. And she spent her life doing that.
In my opinion, she's an American hero.
Yeah, she really is, and so I think it's more insulting to put somebody in when she finally gets the biopic that she so richly deserves, to just sort of, you know, like punt the way that they're doing by casting somebody like Zoe Saldana. And if, you know, I think, you know, another person, India Arie, would be good too. I don't know how she is as an actress. I mean, maybe she would be okay. She would bring the musicianship that I know Lupita Nyong'o is not a musician, so Lupita Nyong'o could bring acting chops, and somebody like India Arie could certainly bring a lot of musicianship
and aesthetics.
To the role. And aesthetics, because they could also get her to look a lot like a Nina Simone. There's, you know, but they're not willing to take that risk. And I think it's going to fall, you know, this movie that should make huge box office is not, because having Zoe Saldana is a non-starter from Jump Street. It just is.
Now, I was looking at two other films that I thought were kind of successful with the aesthetics and good acting. And you were kind of touching on the real person with Carmen Jones, is the Dorothy Dandridge story with Halle Berry. Halle Berry aesthetically looked really a lot like Dorothy Dandridge.
Yes, she did.
And she did a really decent job acting in that.
As Dorothy Dandridge, she did. That was a good picture.
It was.
It was surprisingly good.
The other film I just wanted to mention quickly, if I could, is is Jamie Foxx as Ray Charles.
Right.
I thought that was perfect.
But remember, you know, you're looking at a couple of actors who could do more than just deliver lines.
Oh, of course.
You know, Halle Berry has a wonderful screen presence, and she's been cast in some bad films, and I'm sorry for that. On the other hand, she's also been allowed to shine in some other films. Yeah, I wouldn't name that picture at all, but yeah. And there's a couple others too, but I love watching her craft that character on screen when she's allowed to use her gifts. It's really incredible. And then the movie Ray. What an incredible job he did. And it was amazing watching him craft this character, and he gets better throughout the film.
He does.
You can tell that, but this is this is a marriage between the actor and the cameraman and the director and the editors to make it all work. And in film, you have that capability. And if the actor goes off in a way that anyone else can't make it work, the actor's going to look really bad. And so it's a community. It's a community collaboration to make it work. So when you have somebody like you're talking about, Zoe Saldana, the question you have, because the movie hasn't come out yet, but with enough people complaining about this, the question is, what is she able to give to the rest of the filmmaking community for that film that's going to help make this a good film? And if it's just a name for box office, then that's not making the film at all, is it? You know, and so you're right.
I don't know. I don't know what she brings to the table other than box office. I really don't. I wish I could think of some. I mean, yes, she's a good actress, but I don't even know if she would have that range. I mean, Nina Simone has gravitas. Mm-hmm. I mean, as fine an actress as Zoe Saldana is, I don't get gravitas from her. You know, I mean, I get rom-com, I get, maybe action, like action, like sassy, adventurer type.
Yeah, that's most of the movies that she's been in, actually.
Right.
Columbiana,
right.
Takers, Losers. I mean, she's the femme fatale.
Right, or she was in Center Stage. That's where she got her big break, where she played a ballet dancer, and she trained for that, but you could tell that she did some training specifically for that film, and that she didn't come by it naturally. Although she did do some training as a dancer. But in terms of like the gravitas and the seriousness, I mean, Nina Simone's a really, really serious person, and just incredibly thoughtful, and she spends a lot of her time thinking about the greater good, and I don't know how Zoe Saldana is going to convey that. I just don't. Yeah. And I'm not even sure that I'm interested enough to want to see her try, because I'm so annoyed that they basically said, well, we don't give a crap about what you spent your life fighting for. We're going to cast this, sort of, European beauty who happens to have dark skin so that people like you more.
Well,
that's what she fought against her whole life. That's what drives me crazy.
One of the things about being a movie critic is that you got to take the good with the bad. And so what you're talking about now really piques my interest in seeing this film, just to see what is there anything worth taking away on this film, or would it be a waste of money? And I want to know that now. Now I want to know.
Well, God, I'm not trying to get you to see the film, but
well, you know what? For very similar reasons, I want to see the film. I want to see if she actually can pull it off.
And I think that as a movie critic, it's very difficult to not walk into a theater with any determined ideas that you carry in with you. And I think that as in studying theater the way I did, the whole concept was to remove out of your head any pre-existing thoughts or ideas about what you're about to see, even if you've seen it before, so that every time you're seeing something, you're seeing it like you had never seen it before. And that's a good skill to have. And so I recommend that if you do go out and see it, try to put out your mind the negative parts about this, watch it, see what it gives you, and then rant again.
Well, I'll say this about that. I mean, yes, you're right, Larry. I'm still not going to go see this movie. But two, I think there probably will be a lot of good production values around the movie, mainly because they've got her surrounded by good people who are going to prop her up. I mean, there's going to be, I mean, David Oyelowo, I'm sure is going to be fabulous as Clifton Henderson. Now, I noticed that they didn't get some European, look-alike to play him. I mean, he's probably isn't that far off from what the real Clifton Henderson looked like.
May I say something about that?
Okay.
They didn't
Can I finish what I was saying first? No. Okay, go ahead.
It's just about that one point. They didn't get a European person like that, but they got a European because he's.
Well, no, he's British. I know. Well, there you go.
That's all I was going to say.
Yeah.
So Greg.
But then they also have like Mike Epps, who was a very fine actor. Actually, I mean, he's really known as a comedian.
But he's a better actor than comedian.
He's an excellent actor and not a much better actor than comedian. You're right about that. And Ella Joyce is somebody else. I mean, she's not that well known, but she's a fabulous character actress to play his mother. So she's surrounded by really good people. So there will be some good acting. I think maybe there'll be some good writing, maybe there'll be some good production values, but I'm sorry, the fact that she's starring in this movie is just, I mean, Nina Simone would not be happy about this. I'm pretty sure if Nina Simone was alive, Nina Simone never would have bought off on that.
Well, I'm curious, because her daughter is alive, and I'm curious if she has anything to say. I haven't read any articles about what she has to say about the casting for this film. That would be something interesting to read.
You'd probably be able to find information about that if she was consulted on at all. It all depends on who has the rights, because she may not have the rights to her mother's story.
Sad is it, but yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so who has the rights to her mother's story and take it from there. One of the things I wanted to say quickly is about Danny Aiello, is that he might be in running for the next James Bond.
Well, actually, here's the thing. Danny Aiello has actually been given James Bond on audiobook as a voiceover.
Yes, I do know this.
But he's not being considered as for the acting.
Well, right now, nobody is, because Sony has decided that they no longer want to be the distributor for James Bond films.
Why does it make that decision?
Because I think Daniel Craig is out.
Well, yes and no.
It's part of it.
Yes and no. What's happened was the Sony decision has nothing to do with Daniel Craig. It has everything to do with their return on their investment. And so what they're saying is the people who are controlling the Bond movies say, okay, if you want to distribute our films, this is how much you have to pay up front for that. Sony did that, and they haven't made their money back yet, and they won't. So what they're saying is they're not going to do it anymore. They'd rather pay the penalty for not distributing the third film. The James Bond people have decided that they're going to they're saying, well, one way you can get out of this, Sony, is somebody going to buy from you the right to do this? But we have to have final approval. Well, nobody wants it. Nobody wants it at that price. And this is not the Bond movies from the late 60s and early 70s. No, this is the new James Bond, and it doesn't have the same broad appeal as it used to have.
Well, it's not even Ian Fleming. That's part of it, too, is that the writing is very different.
Even though I think that the Daniel Craig movies are the best they've ever been since Sean Connery. Yeah. So, and matter of fact, I think that Skyfall is one of the best movies James Bond movies ever. But now the James Bond people have to decide, what are they going to do? Because if they can't figure out how the films are going to be distributed any longer, they're not going to be able to produce another James Bond film.
Right.
And if they don't, and so right now that whole thing is in stasis. The whole franchise is in stasis right now.
Has anybody seen Spectre yet?
No,
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it's I liked it.
Okay.
I like it. It's not nearly as good as Skyfall, but the Spectre is good, and A lot of questions are answered in it, but you could tell, one thing you could tell is that Daniel Craig, he's not there anymore. And speaking of Daniel Craig, did you see this? Did you see the new Star Wars film?
I've seen it. I saw it today.
Good. Did you see the part that Daniel Craig plays?
No.
He's in the film. He is in the movie, but he is a stormtrooper, and so
Yes.
he is, and so he's all covered up in the white stormtrooper armor.
Well, how's anybody supposed to be able to pick him out of a lineup if that's what he looks like?
Well,
It was hard to see. It was hard to see. What's the young actress you mentioned? Youngo? What's her? I can't remember.
Lupita Nyong'o. Yeah, who was she in this movie?
She plays a pivotal role in this film. She's the one that introduces us to the true understanding of where the Force is going in the future.
What?
Yep.
Remember the lady who owns the bar?
That's her. She's an
That's her?
Yes. Yeah.
That was her?
That was
Yeah.
her.
Now,
Oh my goodness, I had no idea.
Daniel Craig. This is a little Easter egg. It won't spoil anything, but look for it. Look for it, ladies and gentlemen. The scene where Rey is being bound in the chamber, tied to the chair, and then she says, "You're going to let me go," and walk out of the room. That stormtrooper is Daniel Craig.
No idea.
That is hilarious.
I literally just saw this movie today on a whim.
But the great thing is, if you look at the way he's standing, if you look at the way he drops his weapon, if you listen to the way he says his lines, you know damn well that's Daniel Craig.
Huh.
And even before I was told that was him, I guessed that was him.
No, I never guessed.
Yeah. Did you guys like the film?
Yeah.
I liked it. What I said to Greg today was that I thought it was predictable. I mean, it didn't forge that many new pathways. But it was like an old friend. It was like seeing an old friend again.
That was the purpose of this film.
And I liked that. You know.
And
Just,
that was
just to put you forward toward the next film.
Yeah,
Right.
This film was to bring you back in and then get you ready for the next film. And
Right.
if the next film is good, it succeeded. If the next film is not wonderful, and I mean that sincerely, if the next film is not wonderful, you might as well just put the whole thing to bed.
Well, I'm sure they're retaining their options to do just that. You know.
But
if it's not
after
good.
watching this film, my perspective was I'm looking forward to the next one.
So am I.
Watching this one. This one
Yes.
made me feel, as you alluded to, made me feel warm and fuzzy, waiting for the next one to arrive. Looking forward to be, as you are saying, Larry, spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to see the Star Wars again because we've seen so many Star Trek films. Like Star Trek has been so much more in front of our consciousness as a movie-going public, and they've already done what Star Wars is trying to do. And Star Wars is really, I mean, except for the prequels, which was, oh my God, just a really awful slog down a really long, dark hallway. Except for those prequels, they've kind of been, when was the third Star Wars film done? There was The Empire Strikes Back, and then there was, what was the third one called? The third Star Wars film.
Which are you talking about? The original series?
The original series.
Oh, okay, The Return of the Jedi.
Oh, right, okay. When was The Return of the Jedi done? Wasn't that like 1981 or something? 82, somewhere in there?
Somewhere in there.
83.
Right.
83.
Okay, 83. So that movie is 33 years old. And except for those god-awful prequels, that's the last time. That's a long time, and the prequels are that prequel series was so, I mean, maybe one film was okay and the other two were horrible. So I don't really even want to count them. as part of the journey. You know, it's kind of like, okay, well, after Return of the Jedi, let's just skip all that other crap and go straight forward to The Force Awakens. That makes sense to me.
Well, you know, it's interesting. There's I'm sorry, it's my fault that we got off topic. So forgive me, Greg. Forgive me, Karen.
No, we're good.
But if you remember what happened just a couple of months before Return of the Jedi came out, Variety had a double page center of Variety advertisement for this movie, and with that had a little poster, and the whole thing was called Revenge of the Jedi.
Wow.
And this was actually what they were going to call it at the beginning, knowing full well that Jedi don't get revenge. That was a setup to the sequel 3 films, not the prequel. And so I'm thinking that one of the major characters of this next thing ends up going bad. And right now we're seeing Kylo Ren doing that, but there is a whole big thing out there that suggests that Kylo Ren is what we would call in a cop movie in deep cover.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and Han knew this. You know, so it's like, oh, wait a second here. You know, this is a weird thing to consider. But nonetheless, when it really comes down to it, I've got no idea. I can't wait for the next movie to come out.
Yeah, I will be very interested to see, and I think you're right. This movie set us up. The Force Awakens set us up, reintroduced a whole new generation of people to Star Wars, and reintroduced those of us who saw the original Star Wars movies. They reminded us again why we were so captivated, and and all of that was. I think they did a nice job of bringing that back.
And one of the things that they did was the guy who wrote the script for Empire Strikes Back wrote this script.
Lawrence Kasdan was one of the script writers. Is that who you're talking about?
Yep. And then the guy who
J.J. Abrams.
Well, right, but the guy who directed the Return of the Empire Strikes Back, his vision. He was brought in to help J.J. Abrams with the vision of this script and the filming of this. So, and they did. This film is in many ways is very much like what Empire Strikes Back gave us.
Right.
And that was my favorite of the three original Star Wars movies. That was my favorite.
And so this is a good start, and it's only a start. It's a good start. So let's see. Now, J.J. Abrams is not directing the next film.
Right. Who is?
Oh gosh, I should know this and I don't, and so forgive me. The person who's directing also wrote it, and has they what's the word I'm looking for? They decided to, when the script was submitted to when it was submitted to J.J. Abrams, J.J. Abrams wanted to change everything, and he wanted to go and direct this thing. So, but he's not. The director is going to be Rian Johnson.
Never heard of him.
And watching a interview with J.J. Abrams, he was saying that Rian Johnson's vision on the script and for the next Star Wars film, he says, is awesome, and he's jealous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So.
Interesting.
Yeah, we got way off track of our topic, but yeah, that the Star Wars, yeah, that. So I'm glad I went to see it. I mean, I can't say that I was like totally blown away by the movie because it was too predictable.
Yeah, it was. I saw it on opening day, and so I saw it before the spoilers got out there too much. Even though at midnight on or 12:01 on opening day, in 12:01 in the morning, Wikipedia already had the whole plot down. So if you wanted,
I stayed away from all of that stuff.
Yeah, if you wanted to get all the thing, then. But what was cool for me was the reaction in the theater with everything that happened on the screen. The cheers, like they did back in 1977 at the end of Star Wars. At the end of this movie, everybody stood up and applauded.
Oh wow! No, that didn't happen at all in my movie theater. But I went to a 12:45 showing on a Friday afternoon when most people were at work, and there were more people in the theater than I thought were going to be there. But still not a whole lot of people, and reactions were muted at best. I mean, I heard laughter from time to time at the funny parts, but not a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I really wanted to see it in a 3D IMAX. I really wanted to see it like that.
It was hard. It was hard for me watching Carrie Fisher. Her acting chops she never had them in the first place, and what little she had is gone. She's a great writer. Can't take that away from her. But I think that we would have been better served. Hey, back about today, we would have better served if you had some different characters, some different actors playing characters. But
she didn't have that much to do.
No, she didn't. It was just hard. That was the only hard part for me, was watching her act. So Greg, you're being awfully quiet here. So you saw it, and how did you like it?
I enjoyed it. Didn't like the ending because lately I'm not real happy with a lot of endings. But I guess knowing and understanding that there was going to be another film, the ending was okay. I think it still needed to be a little bit more, I don't know, more giving at the end. But I won't be a spoiler either as to that. But the movie as a whole, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It wasn't, like Karen was alluding to, it wasn't like the prequels. I understand the prequels because a lot of people were curious who are moviegoers as opposed to readers and things like that. Were more curious about origins, and because that was the whole point, to give you origins and so that you have a better understanding of what was really going on in the first few films that were made and also the future films. But as a whole, on a scale from 1 to 10, it was an 8 for me.
Yeah, I'd say it'd be about an 8. Maybe
8.5.
It may be an 8.5 if I'm, drinking the right kind of Kool-Aid. But yeah.
I'd give it a solid 7.
That's a good number. So, hey, Greg, you know what? I just realized, and forgive me, but you had another film you wanted to talk about tonight.
Well, no, I only had the two. The Rat Pack with Don Cheadle being replaced, in my opinion, would have been a better film with Tommy Davidson, and then, of course, Jack Reacher. Better film with Hugh Jackman as opposed to Tom Cruise. Not taking away from the performances of either gentleman. I'm a fan of both Tom Cruise and Don Cheadle, just not for those films.
Well, and then to recap, my two films were Lady Sings the Blues, so instead of Diana Ross, I would have cast Pam Grier, and my other film is the upcoming Nina, in which I would have cast either Lupita Nyong'o as Nina Simone or possibly India Arie as Nina Simone.
Yeah, and my two films that we talked about earlier was first of all Carmen Jones, 1954, and it wasn't to replace any of the actors, but more getting rid of the singing voices that they dubbed over the actors and used the actors' actual voices, because they all were good singers. And then the other movie is a think it was 1988. Was it the
I think right.
They Live and replacing the lead, the former wrestling pro Piper with the guy that they originally wanted for that film, and oh God, come on,
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell, thanks. I get these mind freezes all the time.
It's okay. Yeah. So, any movies out there that you're looking forward to seeing?
Lots. Too many of them to discuss in one evening, or even to mention them all.
Right.
Just mention one. That's all. Anyone.
Well, okay. A year from now, the next Star Wars film, that'll be a good thing to see. I want to see Joy. It's out. I want to see it. I haven't seen it yet. How about you guys? Have either of you seen Joy?
Yes.
What do you think?
I wasn't I wasn't joyful.
I love Joy.
I'm a fan of Jennifer Lawrence, but the movie didn't. I guess I probably played into the hype of the film, and it disappointed me. And the actor who disappointed me the most is one of my favorite actors, and that's Robert De Niro.
Well, I really liked the film. I liked the film. I don't know. I just did. I thought the story was interesting because of everything that she went through to bring that first invention. And I like Joy Mangano in real life. She really comes across as a joyful person. And, I have her products in my home, as I've told you all on numerous occasions. I like the fact that she's become so successful. So I guess I had that sort of bias going to see the movie. But then seeing the movie, I don't know, the story was engaging to me. It kept my interest. So all the stuff that she had to go through was really interesting. And then, like I said, getting that first product somehow, even after it became a success, there still was no guarantee of lasting success because there were still major money issues that they had to address. So all of that just seemed interesting to me. And I like Jennifer Lawrence playing Joy Mangano, or some reasonable facsimile of Joy Mangano. I think Joy's really kind of a composite. It's not the exact life story of Joy Mangano. There were a lot of liberties taken to bring the story. But Joy Mangano is one of the executive producers of the movie. So I'm sure she had some say in casting and some say in, story direction and that sort of thing.
Well, I want to see a couple of things. I want to see a movie coming out next month, Deadpool.
With Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds, that's
Ryan
right.
Reynolds.
We're
superhero kids, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah, and considering the history of how Marvel decided to do Deadpool, they decided to do Deadpool only for one book, not one series, just one story, one individual thing as a parody to what DC was doing. And it turned out to be better than what DC was doing, and everybody loved it, so they kept the character. I want to see the movie about Jesse Owens called Race.
I haven't seen that.
Haven't heard of this.
There's a lot of money behind this film. It's a biopic. It's a biopic about Jesse Owens. It's going to come out middle of February.
Of this year or next year?
This year.
Oh, really? Who's playing Jesse Owens?
Who's playing Jesse Owens? Let me find that out. Hold on, give me a second here.
Wow. That might be interesting.
What might be interesting?
Oh, just the essence of Jesse Owens as a film. Oh, Stephen. Oh, I've seen him in other films. He's in Selma.
Stephen James, yeah.
Yeah, he's in Selma. He's one of the him and the guy that's in Empire. They were Martin Luther King is talking to these two guys. I can't remember but he's a good look for Jesse. I like that. That's good aesthetically.
Now their remake, somebody's
wow.
remake.
I'm going to bring this picture up for you guys to see.
All right.
Go ahead, Larry. Keep talking.
Somebody's remaking Ben-Hur. Frankly, I don't have a lot of hope for it, but I'll probably wait for that one to come out on I can stream it to watch it. I'm interested in. I'm just going through my list here, and I'm picking and choosing.
As you're talking, this is a picture of Stephen James as Jesse Owens. How do you like that?
Isn't that a great picture?
That is a great picture.
I'm interested in March. I'm interested in Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yeah, I'm interested in those movies too.
I'm interested in My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2.
Oh God, no! Why? Why are you interested in that?
Because you know something, I liked the first one a lot. I thought it was quirky. It took risks, and it delivered a pretty good product. They told the story well. Now,
has anybody seen Concussion?
Not
I
yet.
haven't.
And that's
Have you?
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
On a scale from 1 to 10, it's a solid 7, maybe a 7.5. Will Smith does a decent job. The subject matter, of course, which is really the reason why the movie's even, for me, is rated as high as it is. But there were a few things in there that, as far as the depicting, because again, this is a biopic of a doctor who basically finds a name for the quote-unquote illness that is because of attributed to the concussions that happen in the NFL very often. Yeah. So it was a decent film. It was a good film, and for those who are not familiar with what's going on, and this is an ongoing thing that the NFL is dealing with. They have been for quite some time.
Now in May, Captain America: Civil War is coming out.
That's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
And also in May is the movie called Snowden.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Who's going to be playing Snowden? I wonder.
I don't know, but I'll tell you who's directing it. Oliver Stone.
Oh,
really?
He would be the right person to do that movie.
Yeah.
I think. Edward
Snowden is played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh, really? Huh.
Nick Cage is in it. It's got a really good cast when you look at the cast. So, take a look at that. I'm not going to read everyone in there.
Yeah, isn't Clint Eastwood in that?
Yes, he is.
Was it Scott Eastwood? Eastwood.
Yeah, and he's one of the headliners in the film. So.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay. I thought I heard he was going to be in there.
Well, has anybody seen Creed?
Yes, I have seen Creed. Oh my God. Okay, a friend of mine. I got to say this. A friend of mine at my primary gig was talking to me. He says, "Greg, dude." I said, "What?" He says, "Have you seen Creed?" I said, "Man." He said, "No, Greg, really." He said, I was just like you. I was skeptical, man, and I watched that movie." He said, "Greg, you got to watch it." Now, he said, "Greg." And so I said, "Okay, fine." Watch the movie. When I went into the movie, my bias was saying, why watch this movie ever? And then I thought, okay, I've got to be fair, give it a shot. You know what? The movie's a 7. I was going to give it like a 4. And it's a 7. It actually is a 7. I couldn't believe it.
Well,
my friend was right. It's actually better than I thought it was. And it's partially because Sylvester Stallone doesn't do a whole bunch in the movie. He really lets Michael B. Jordan be the true focus of the film.
And what's cool also too is that what's his name? Sylvester Stallone didn't write it.
And maybe that's why.
He didn't write it. He didn't direct it. All they did was, they took characters that he wrote about, including Creed's son. Creed's son was an idea that he had, and he developed that a little bit, but somebody else wrote the script to it. So
good.
And now I don't know if you've ever seen an interview with Sylvester Stallone when he's not in one of his characters. He's a smart guy.
Yeah, I know he is.
He's a very smart guy and a very good screenwriter. And I gotta give him credit for the decades that he's been putting out films, entertaining us all.